Oh, do you also have slides?
Hi, everyone. We are here at Women Deliver, and we are here at our first ChatSRHR session, which is about digital frontiers, how to use AI and digital media to support and advance sexually reproductive health and rights. We're really lucky. We're here with Leonora from Kwanele, South Africa, and Wanjiru from TICAH and Auntie Jane Hotline, who are going to talk to us a bit about the tools that they are using to promote SRHR through digital tech. So take it away, whoever wants to go first.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much to Amplify Change for this platform. Really excited to share here this morning. So I thought I'd start with just a very quick introduction to Kwanele and who we are. So we are a nonprofit that's based in South Africa, and we look at how to increase reporting for gender-based violence using technology. We have an app which is currently live, and we're also we're building an AI chatbot currently. And so gender-based violence in South Africa is particularly bad. I think the stats sit at something like 20 women is raped every 29 seconds within South Africa, which, if you look at the constitution and the legislation that's in place, is horrifying because the policies are there, but that isn't trickling down onto the ground. And that's why, following an incident of rape and murder in my direct family, I looked at how tech could be leveraged to help women to report and to guide them in their journey to justice. And that's where Kwanele essentially was born from. So the mobile app that we are currently piloting has a few functionalities. One is that it has a panic button that is integrated with armed response. Because often in South Africa, when people call the police, unfortunately, for multiple reasons, they are not dispatched in time. And often some of the victim shaming also is very bad. So it's integrated with armed response, so then dispatched to your location. It also live and audio streams, and it's timestamped and geolocated so that it's admissible in the criminal justice system. Then it has a database of support services in your area, and then it also has a hidden vault where you can upload evidence related to your case that is timestamped and geolocated so that you can then use it either at the time when you need support or later, because we find a lot of women come to us who have been raped or assaulted 10 years ago and now want justice potentially for it, but don't have any evidence. And that is really problematic because often we cannot assist them. And that's where the concept of the vault came from. We also recently added a function where you can notify us of the misuse of justice within the criminal justice system, because we find a lot of people come to us who have been shamed in police stations, chased away. And so we are building that aspect of our tech to ensure accountability of service providers. So, but then what we saw was that that wasn't enough, essentially, and that people were still needing guidance within the criminal justice system because the way in which it's packaged is not accessible to many people because the language that's used. That's where we started looking at how to use AI. So looking to serve, and with so we might do like role play sessions, and then we use all of that information to then train the bot on the kind of data that it needs to use. It's like, because the data sets that we're using are underrepresented,
And it's especially just because when you think cognitively about abortion, the first thing that comes to people's mind is that this is illegal, this is something that you cannot be able to do. So one of the things
start?
Yeah, sure. So best do that because when it comes to um, the legal challenges within the spaces, it was extremely important for us to talk to lawyers, to talk to our beneficiaries, to talk to actors within the cyberspace, and that allowed us to do that. Same thing with the Mama Sophia app. We really consulted widely. It was not our, it was a joint process. It was a joint initiative to ensure that we have that. Within the Mama network, we are very conscious about security. So we have holistic security training for our Mama members so that even if they're going to pioneer anything similar to this, we're going to pioneer the use of digital AI. We actually have experts who come in from all over the world to ensure that that specific space is as safe to use as possible. Even when it comes to integration models as well, we do that as for security. And maybe you guys have something similar.
Yeah, so we have a similar approach. I think the difference is that we get sent even more sensitive data. So
Okay.
we'll often get like photographs, a lot of court information, and especially when we're dealing with cases at government level, then it becomes a very serious security concern. So it's something that we've looked at extensively. So we encrypt up and down, and then we also do not take any personal data until it gets to the point. Obviously, at some point they have to because now we're asking for court information. We have like our chatbots are going to be integrated into Facebook and WhatsApp, and then obviously that becomes a data problem. So then, if it's very personal data, we ask people then to move over to the app where we have more control over what happens with the data, whereas with Meta, we have limited control over what happens to that data. And then, yeah, we are also just very clear in our conversations if we are going to share anything, because often we have to share the data with lawyers. Then we make sure along the way that we always ask people, okay, this is what we need to share. Is it okay for us to share it? And just making sure that we really protect people and give them power to decide what their data is used for along the journey.
You're right.
Yeah.
And I think we also do something similar in the sense that we have we keep all our information on cloud computing. Yes, on a very secure platform. We're not plugged into any of the local like data systems. We have our own secure system with our own passwords. We never put our passwords online. And then when even comes to M&E, we outsource that to our very secure platform and server so that whenever the demographic information comes in, it's something that we can, and we have consent forms. So there's all these levels and measures because it's levels, right? You come to this level and second level, third level. So just like you, we integrate all these levels of security throughout our platforms. Mm-hmm.
So I think something else also that we consider a lot, and I'm sure you do as well, is algorithmic bias, because it's considerably problematic. And so what we've also done is we have a live chat option. So when the chatbot introduced itself as a bot, we did a lot of research as to what our bot should be called and what its personality should be. And people were very clear that they wanted it to look like a bot, not a person. And that's why we call it ChatGPT. We don't even give it like a personalized name. But as it introduces itself, it will tell you if you want to speak to a real person, we have a person here available to speak to you. And during the conversation, it also reminds the person that if they want their data checked or the answers to what because we don't collect a lot of the conversation, then it will say, do you want this checked by a lawyer? And then we send it to our legal team just to double check the answers that are being given to make sure they're accurate and that it's not harming the person that is speaking to them. So, but again, it's like, I think the space is so new that I think it's also about being honest in the process to say, we might do something to hurt you. This might give you a wrong answer, and this is what to do if it happens.
And so interestingly enough, we have an almost antithetical like approach. So we are personalized in how we, like, for example, give information. So for in the anti-Jane hotline, let's assume we call it within, and because most people are not very used to sharing such personal information on the phone, so a lot of times somebody gets nervous and they try to test you. So what we do is, if you're uncomfortable with the person who, like, for example, you make a call and you don't want to identify yourself, we will call you back. We will actually call you back and you will speak to someone. We will and a lot of times our counselors are actually uh, counselors, like trained counselors, and so we can take you through a spectrum of conversation prior to that to make you a little bit more comfortable. So instead of maybe having the chat bot experience, now you have the real person experience. It's like talking to your auntie, right? It's information that you can get. And like I said, if you call maybe out of hours and maybe there's nobody there, we will call you back. Our system picks up your number and calls you back. And if you're not in a position to talk, we'll give you whatever information you need, and you can kind of sift through that to see what you need. So it's very interesting. It's almost a completely, yes, antithetical. Yes, exactly. So it's interesting. And I suppose that's what digital AI is. It's offering the user both experiences, the personalized experience of, for example, our app or our hotline, and then your app. So whatever spectrum you want to work on, you will find it available to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm very much excited about the projects that you guys are actually introduced.
Yes.
I'm very much excited about the project that you guys have introduced. And as you're talking SRHR, from where I'm coming from in South Africa, KwaZulu-Natal, we learned from the cases that are going to court that we get a lot of intimate partner violence as part of GBV, and most of those cases, actually the contributing factor is the right of women not being respected by their partners. And I also learned that they get a lot of pressure to withdraw the cases simply because it's family and it's boyfriends, and even the reporting sites are known to the abuses. So how are you going to try and collaborate with the stakeholders that are involved in management of such cases to be involved in the setting, in the space that you guys have created?
Mm-hmm. I'll let you go first because it's South Africa.
Sure. So, yeah, this is something that we deal with a lot because, like I said, people come to us to report actual cases, and then we do see them getting withdrawn quite often. So, what we're looking to do is to use the app to collect data so that then we can use that to lobby for change of policy, better training in the front line. That's what we see so often is the training of police and the courts is often a huge contributor to why these cases are withdrawn and why people do not pursue them properly. And we're hoping with data-informed evidence by the app, we can then use that to lobby for policy change. But what we also say to people is use the app, store the evidence. If you change your mind, and then later you want to reopen it, then at least you have evidence that you can use. Open an inquiry at the police station, so at least it's recorded, even if you change your mind. Because then 10 years from now, when you do suddenly want justice, you have the evidence you need to then secure successful prosecution.
Yeah. I mean, maybe to add a little bit on that, and maybe because my background is legal, let me talk about the mama situation. So when you call in, for example, and it's a case of IPV, intimate partner violence, and you want to get information on that, we will take whatever information you want to give us. We will also tell you that we offer pro bono legal services. So the Mama Network has a part of it that is called the Mama Legal Support Network. Under that, we can be able to handle cases because we have trained attorneys, and the Mama uh, organization is across, both Anglo and Francophone Africa. So if you're not in a position, for example, myself, to handle your matter, then we'll be able to get somebody in your country. We train lawyers in your countries to actually handle your matter for you. We also, like I said, we offer pro bono services, and even if it's not pro bono, we have a fund. So if you're not able to carry out the litigation on your own, we'll be able to assist you with paying the litigation or meeting the litigation costs for that case. So all around, you shouldn't, like, the idea of the app, Auntie Jane and Mama Sophia app, but specifically Auntie Jane Hotline and Mama, is that we're here to offer a spectrum. So from when you come to talk to us about whatever it is you need, all the way up to where you can be able to get your justice, we will work with you all the way. After that, we have counseling services that we can also offer once you're done with that particular process. And so for me, when I think about it, especially when it comes to IPV, because we have a lot of that in Kenya, just like South Africa, the idea is to ensure that the partner who has or is experiencing the violence is in a safe space even after the fact. Because the African situation, you're always told to go back to your partner, right? And if you don't, a lot of times the women, maybe they don't have money. The other partner was the sole provider in the house, and they're wondering, once we leave here, where do I go? So at least what we're trying to do with cases like these is once you come to us, we take care of you, we walk with you to the very end, right? So that's the idea, at least for the Mama Network.
Beautiful. Women power.
All the way. They say women deliver, we do.
Yes.
All the way.
Ah, guys, this is so exciting.
We're excited too. Right.
Yeah, wow. Okay, guys, firstly, I want to appreciate the great work that you're doing. But my concern is with the energy that you put into the communities, to your beneficiaries and stuff. Like, you see with the funding, most of them, they have, how will I put it, time frames,
Mhm.
like it's 2 years, 3 years. So
Yes.
how do you deal with such things? Like, you're saving people and then they're benefiting, you're making impact, but and then after 2 years the fund is
Mm.
ending, and then you still have the whole lineup of people who still need your services. So how do you deal with such challenges?
You first.
But you're the bigger funders here.
So maybe I can start. So first and foremost, I want to recognize Amplify Change, who supports a lot of our work, and they have been for a long time been supporting our work. And one of the things that we do is we have sustainability frameworks. So it's not just about training you and supporting the beneficiary; it's about carrying it forward and allowing that the beneficiary then can be able to tap into other networks, not just our network. Because I think the problem with support is that sometimes we only get it from one platform and we assume that that's the only platform in which you can get support. So for us, when it comes to sustainability frameworks and models after the fact, we think, who can you partner with after us if we're not able to do this for you? We give you the capacity to be able to write your own what do you call it, applications to funders and to partners, and so that when even when we're not able, for example, to participate or continue to support this particular thing, we have given you the capacity to do so, right? And if you need, for example, one of the things that we do for our mama members, if you need a referral or if you need a reference, we will write it for you, so that we, as a maybe as a bigger organization, we are able to then offer the fiscal information that they need, then we will do that for you, right? We also, I suppose, there are opportunities for fiscal hosting if you're not able to manage the funds that you're given. The idea should is that once the funds end, the work doesn't stop. Partnership with other organizations and other people who are interested in the same body of work that you're doing. That's how I would look at it myself.
Yeah, look, I think for us it's slightly different
Yes,
because we're like a baby compared to you guys. So we're
we all grew
only,
up.
yes, we're gonna grow up. So we're only 2 years old, so it's a slightly different situation. But I think it's exactly that. It's putting in sustainability plans, making sure that you don't get all your funding from one area.
Mhm.
We're also hoping to have like to generate income of sorts through our technologies in some way. So looking also like at social enterprise. So yeah, I think it's exactly
Mm.
the downstream version of what you were just talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I've promptly just forgot. Oh yes, okay. So we know about sort of digital tools and AI for a lot of times around service provision or linking people to services.
Mhm.
But how do you see these types of initiatives also strengthening the broader movement for improved SRHR beyond just sort of connecting people to services?
So I think the nice thing about it's funny. Someone asked me the other day, they're like, "Don't you feel that using ChatGPT for grant writing is unethical?" And I said to them, "No, I think it's the actual opposite, right? Now we can compete with Oxfam and these huge organizations who spend millions on their grant writing because we have access to a tool that, it doesn't know what I'm doing. I have to train it what I'm doing so that it can answer correctly. And I think the same speaks to your question. If AI is used correctly, it means that education and resources and tools are accessible to young people, no matter their demographic, in very different situations on a basic smartphone. But I think we haven't got to that place. And that's where work like ours is so important, to make sure that underrepresented data sets are then like accessible to those kind of resources, that young people are trained in how to access it and use it. But I think if done correctly, it has a huge potential to level the playing ground for a lot of people.
For me, I completely agree with what she's. In fact, when you're saying it, I was like, yes, that's so true. But I think also when we think about movement building around SRHR and just getting everybody involved, because we tend to do things a little bit high level. I like the way you talk about downstream. We tend to situate a lot of our work up here with people who have access. But platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter are creating the movement building that we need, right? This narrative change that we're trying to accomplish, that is now being done more cohesively and more expansively through using digital. I think it's a very synergetic movement process across the board. So whether it's using chat for the ability to write projects, I like what you said, write projects at the same level as these big organizations are doing, or whether it's the little woman across the road on the street selling street vegetables, understanding her rights and knowing that she has access, right? All the way from the top to the bottom. The only thing that is connecting us completely and concisely and comprehensively is digital, right? Digital technologies.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's a very synergetic and a very active process of growth and development as we get along when it comes to the movement. Yeah.
Um,
Maybe not a question per se, but to commend you, because I've been like, I have a few minutes here, but I've been listening to both of you. I think from what she asked, I'm also looking at the system that you guys have developed, giving more education other than access to service, of which I believe where there's more education, more information out there, then there's sustainability and then there's development, which I think that's one thing that I like about the the project that you guys have actually developed. And I think there's the sooner the community learn using the tools that are accessible to them, that will also give them courage to report. That will also encourage them to access services in their own corners. We've seen quite a number of businesses during COVID that were actually shut down or closed simply because we couldn't develop and we couldn't go with technology, we couldn't learn new things. So now I believe, as a person that does gender-based violence, physical cases, one-on-one physical cases, I believe this is going to help not just us as service providers, it will help the community at large. Because remember that also gender-based violence has the tendency of grooming people to, probably I would say, they get withdrawn. They want to be in their own spaces where they feel comfortable to talk with the person of their choice. So allowing the system to be there will also help each person, even a young girl that is being abused by a father or an uncle or a member of the family, to have access, even though they cannot go with that person to access service. And I think one of the things that I learned a few years ago was that most of young girls are violated by the parents or people who are the caregivers. So when they go to access service physically, then somebody has to sign, give consent for them to access service. What if that person is a perpetrator and they're not comfortable to be there in the same space with that person? So I'm just thinking as you guys are talking, and it says to me, yes, you go, girls.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful, and I'm loving it.
And I'm picking up on something you said that I think that is so important. You talked about how when it comes to consent and giving consent for services, there's I've come from a forum right now where they were talking about jurisprudence that has come out from different countries where you actually do not need to get the consent of, for example, if you're under 18, you don't need to get your parents' consent to, for example, terminate a pregnancy, right? You don't need to seek a court order to terminate a pregnancy. The jurisprudence that has come out of that jurisdiction is that you can be able to actually go to a doctor and get the termination that you need without, for example, seeking consent. So I think one of the things that digital AI is also doing for us is disseminating this information across the board. And so that you'll be able, like, for example, a litigator like myself, I'll be thinking, I know a jurisdiction in which I can be able to get information on how to ensure that we remove this need for parental consent under the age of 18, right? For a person to have autonomy, bodily autonomy, and for her, and a girl specifically, right? Especially if the perpetrator of the violence is going to be somebody that they know, or a caregiver, or even a parent, right? It is ludicrous to think that that parent is going to actually give consent for that thing to happen, right? So those are the kind of things that I'm learning within these spaces, and the only way I got to this space is because somebody sent me a message on WhatsApp that there was a forum that was happening, and I was able to then access that forum. This is the digital spaces that we need and the growth that we need to see. So yes, absolutely, women go for sure.
But I think within that, there's still a lot to be done at a grassroots level to teach accessibility.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking me about how to deal with data protection issues in the communities we work with, and I said the problem isn't the data protection issues currently. The problem is that the young people don't know that there's a data protection issue. So, and I think that's where we're looking also to work, is to educate people on technology so that they can access not only ours, but yours and everyone else's, to get to the place where then they have equal access.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that there have been very progressive laws when it comes to it, but the laws, once again, you say, they sit up here. They don't go down to the people. So you don't know that you have this level of protection or this level of accessibility, right? And like you said, it's not accessible. It's not easy for a young person to be able to know or ask the right question, right?
I know what to do. Like, I consider myself so versed, but I had an incident the other day where my daughter was trolled on Instagram, and our instant reaction was to get the page removed. Very wrong decision to make.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have got it removed, because then we couldn't find out who the page belonged to, and then we couldn't take any action. And it's knowing that. That's what the problem is. It's like knowing what to do.
With our app, for example, not our app, with Mama Sophia, the hotline, we work with influencers, right? So the influencers on TikTok, and so we have such a good body of influencers who allow us to use their platforms to disseminate this information. And a lot of them I know experience cyberbullying. One of the influencers that we work with recently put out a post on cyberbullying, and put out a post on how you don't see the struggle before, and the undercurrents of the things that we get bullied on, especially if we're talking about SRHR issues. And so it was very interesting for that, because now that got traction and that trended. Right? We're doing this and we're putting ourselves out there, but we also need a level of protection. So you don't own me or my information or the information that I'm putting out there. And the only reason that they were able to do that is because they were able to understand what security looks like. Yeah. What cybersecurity looks like. How can I be able to protect myself from my fans in certain instances, right? Maybe the more rabid ones, but yes, still your fans at the end of the day. So yeah, you're right. That level of information is necessary. Like you say, if you, with all your level of information, you still make this kind of mistakes. What about the little person on the ground who does not know? Yeah. So it's amazing, I think, for me to just see what advancements can come. And like I said, there's a lot of work to be done. We have barely scratched the surface, and specifically in Africa, we have barely scratched the surface on what we could potentially do with the spaces that we are now harnessing in digital technology, for sure. Mhm.
So I think in terms of using the tool, if you're still skeptical, come to us and we'll talk you through it. I think for organizations looking at how to leverage tech, I would definitely come to us and talk about it, because I could definitely write a book on what not to do. I'm pretty sure that you could too.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's, again, about going in humbly, knowing that you're probably going to make a mess, but at the end of it, you're going to do good. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think just reach out and talk.
Yeah. I would echo reach out and talk. We have all fumbled, and we fumble all the time. But I think for me, especially when I think about the app and the hotline, because the hotlines are not just in Kenya. The hotlines are in all these different mama countries. We have hotlines in Nigeria. We have hotlines in Cameroon. We have hotlines in Malawi. There are hotlines in probably in your jurisdiction. There is a hotline. So don't worry. Google, look through. If you're in university, it's probably on a notice board somewhere that you can be able to use this. When it comes to the apps, feel free to Google, right, and see what you can get in, where you can get this information, because it's on Google. Thank God for Google. And you can be able to, or Mozilla, or whatever Bing, or whatever platform there is, and then you'll be able to access that information there. The idea is not to worry, not to worry. The information is there. All you need to do is access it. And there are people who are willing on hotlines, on chatbots in all countries in Africa, willing to work with you and for your rights. So that's what I'm saying. Be bold. Look for information. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you both so much. That was super interesting. And I hope everyone online also took away some lessons. We'll be doing chat SRHR sessions all week here at Women Deliver. So check out our Facebook, our Twitter, Instagram, and you can find out when the next ones will be. But I want to say thank you again to Leonora from Kwanele, South Africa, and Wanjiru from Trust for Indigenous Health, Trust for Indigenous Culture and Health, and the Mama Network for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you.